Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2M Net podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling.
Good evening and welcome to the latest installment and possibly the last installment, if the subject goes how I think it will tonight, of Black Irish here on the W2M Network. I'm your host, Jason. With me, as always, the token black guy of the W2M Network, and that would be Erik.
You know, I'm really pissed off at these ancient aliens people because seriously, if all of this shit was legit, they should have come here and taken my ass off the planet a long time ago. And they just show up. I got a big enough backyard for a flying saucer. Just beam me up and take me to the Crab Nebula. I want to see what all the hype is about.
Man, you're just wanting to get anally probed, don't lie. And with that...
Look, my asshole itches enough as is, thank you very much.
Confucius said, men who go to bed with itchy ass wake up with sticky finger. And with that, the lovely lady of the W2M Network, and joining us from the kickoff, it is Keneddi once again.
I was going to say happy to be involved today, but I don't know if I am with Erik, so...
Okay, well, we kind of recording this on short notice because life gets in the way. I've just been in a shit state of mind the last 2 weeks, both physically and mentally, and a lot's happened. And I thought that this would be a great return topic to come back with, because we actually titled this episode "The Black Irish and Justice for None, America and Justice for None." When you're probably going to question yourself that, and I'm just going to go ahead and warn you, this is not going to be for the faint of heart. We're going to piss people off like we always do. All hate mail goes to s.garmer@gmail.com. I'm sure he'll be glad to hear from you. Just tell him that me and Erik sent you. But with that being said, we're going to tackle in and hit on a lot of topics that have been in the news lately and been going on surrounding American law enforcement. With that being said, I mean, that sets the precedent. So if you're easily pissed off and you're a snowflake, I suggest you get the fuck off our podcast right now and quit listening. Send Sean an email telling how much you hate us and go about your day being miserable. But we're going to kick this thing off with the biggest headline of the past few weeks, and that's the verdict on the George Floyd case. So, with that being said, I'm going to let Erik kick this off. Give us a little bit of insight on his thoughts about the whole situation leading up to the case, and then get his thoughts on the verdict, and then we're going to let Keneddi go on, share her lovely thoughts. So, Erik, the floor is yours. I want to hear it. I want to hear your honest to goodness thoughts on everything surrounding this George Floyd case.
Honestly, I'm going to say it didn't exactly turn out as I expected. Me being my bitter, cynical, jaded self, I thought there was going to be some way, and with all of the comments I've already seen as far as certain things said and potential for a mistrial, I'm still holding my breath, but from everything leading up to this, looking at the case, not 24/7, simply because I've been dealing with enough bullshit and everything, I'm okay with the verdict. I really am. The fact that it was the fair trial, the defense did their effort. I'm not going to say it was the best effort to present the case. The prosecution, they had the video, testimony, a lot of witnesses. It was well set up. I was like, okay, the jury, which jury selection was a thing of itself. I was surprised that that didn't get fucked up. I'm good with it. Now, am I going to be one of those that's like, oh, this is going to be a big moment of change and all of this and that? There's a reason why this is only the 7th officer to actually get convicted. I'm going to be significantly holding my breath because with the way that a lot of law enforcement is, I wouldn't be surprised if after this they really turned things up to 11. But for all the people saying that this was a moment of justice, I really agree. This is how our legal system should work in practice, but it rarely does.
All right, so I want to ask the blunt, honest question. Do you think that the result, do you think George Floyd should be seen as a martyr? Is a good way to phrase it.
I wouldn't go so far as being seen as a martyr. Yes, his name is significant. Yes, his case is significant. But if you're going to make a martyr of him, then what does that say to all of the others who the officers haven't gone through any sort of trials or nothing has really happened to them? And this dates, I could even go all the way back to in 1999 in the case in New York City where 4 officers with fucking terrible aim shooting someone over 40 times and hitting them at less than half that killed him, and all of them were exonerated. I mean, martyrs, that's a very strong word, and to have him as a martyr, you're going to piss off a whole bunch of other people.
Well, I'm going to piss off a lot of people. Keneddi, we've heard Erik's opinion. Now the floor, I'm turning it over to you. I want to hear yours. Let's start the question off. Do you see George Floyd as a martyr?
No, I don't.
Elaborate.
So I have very mixed feelings about the way everything went down. I'm not going to say they were obviously not correct for murdering him at all. But when you watch the video, there's a lot of things he could have done as well to probably help his situation. So to call him a martyr when there's been other situations that have been where people have not been at fault at all and not give them any credit, it's because his case went so viral and so public. So the only reason people would call him a martyr is because of how much media attention it got.
And I love the fact that you pointed that out, because when I get to my point, we're going to go into a very, very deep dive. So I want your thoughts on everything that happened that day, everything leading up, and the verdict.
So I will not say I agree with cause of death. Cause of death was because of the police. It was. Drugs in his system, whatever people want to say. It was because of the police officer. But when you watch that video, and I have strong ass feelings about this, when you watch the video of what went down, because that body cam footage got released, he was also at fault 100%, just like the officers were, for the way things went down. And if you don't want to blame drugs for things, right, why wasn't he in such a clear state of mind that he would have listened at all? Because it was going smoothly at first, and then it just went to shit. If he was in a clear state of mind, that could have went 110% better than the way it did, and he would probably still be alive.
Okay, so do you think the verdict was justified?
Yes, that officer should 100% be in jail. He should. But the problem is going to be is that this got so much media and this was so publicized that everything else is going to have to go the same way, because America is never going to change and our justice system is never going to change. And it should happen the way that this case happened, but it won't. Until something else happens as big as this, and until people bring it to the scale that the George Floyd case got brought to, nobody's going to care about the deaths of any Black Americans.
Which is also why I was surprised that Attorney General Merrick Garland is launching a federal probe into the Minneapolis Police Department. It's like, okay, you're doing this now, but at the pace that you've even said, it's going to take months, it's going to take a year. How many people are really going to be on this until the first anniversary of it? So,
All right, so let's get into the shit show. My thoughts on the situation is, did drugs play into it? Yes. Was the cop at fault? Yes. Did the outcome, was the outcome more fucked up than what it should have been? Yes. Reason being, and this is where I say, America and justice for none. Both of you know about the O.J. Simpson and Rodney King trials, correct?
oh,
Somewhat,
yes.
somewhat.
Mhm.
Keneddi, I
I
don't
know
know.
the OJ. I know the
Okay.
OJ one.
Okay, so that was 24-hour, 7 days a week media coverage, which took a jury a week to deliberate, come up with a verdict on that. There was the medical examiner evidence was not taken into account, and a lot of things were left out. And when on a criminal trial, the jury is supposed to be bipartisan, meaning they're supposed to be neutral, go in hearing every side.
Nonpartisan.
Well,
No,
thank you, Erik.
technically, if by definition of the word, bipartisan is when you are favoring two parties. Nonpartisan is when you are favoring none. Hence the neutrality and everything else. Believe me, you're not the first one that I've gotten into that about.
Okay, so they're supposed to be neutral going into this. But unfortunately, we live in a day of social media, and instead of being found guilty in the court of law, you're found guilty in public opinion that can sway the court of law. George Floyd was everywhere. There is no way that a juror went into this case not having their mind made up. As well as when you have people such as Maxine Waters coming out and other high-ranking political officials coming out saying they better make the right decision. And the jury was given a weekend off. They were not basically confined to.
Now, from my understanding, they were sequestered.
They were.
Really?
They were not. Yes,
Okay.
they got a weekend pass.
Now that I entirely disagree with. They should have been sequestered for the duration.
Correct. They took less than a day to come up with a verdict.
11 hours, I believe.
Yes. I have a problem with that. This, in my opinion, George Floyd is not a martyr. George Floyd had a rap sheet as long as my arm. Can people change? Yes. But, and we're going to get into this on one of our other topics that we're going to be discussing. But when you have a setting political official coming to the state that she has no part in, has no jurisdiction in whatsoever, and making statements such as, the jury better make the right decision or we'll basically, and I'm going to say it, inciting violence, because her words carry weight. And she is seeing no repercussions of it. And I have a problem with that. I have a huge problem with that. And the fact that I really think these jurors went in You're talking about the prosecuting attorney having pig's blood and a pig's head, severed head, left on their porch. The one of the lawyers. This is crazy. The era of social media and the internet era has made people become keyboard warriors and without any repercussions. Do I think the cop should have got jail time? Yes, he was guilty. Do I think it should have been severe? No. Because yes, he did resist arrest and everything, and he did. His actions did lead to this, but also the fact that he had 3 times I'm pretty sure the medical examiner said 3 times the amount of drugs in his system that would kill a normal person. His levels was like 3 times higher than that.
Now let me ask you this, because, and you mentioned somewhat of a valid point as far as with that particular evidence. However, how would you feel, especially with the other evidence, with the second independent autopsy that was performed that conflicts with that evidence from the coroner?
We're going to get into this because this is where we're going to touch on it. Don't worry. These jurors, do you think that they set this in motion for this cop to be a sacrificial lamb to keep for the greater good? Knowing the state of America, the racial tensions, the bullshit that's going on a regular basis, cities burning, the looting, the rioting, all in the name of things. And people saying, oh, it's a peaceful protest. That's not peaceful. That's fucking animalistic fucking tendencies. That's some bullshit. You'll never convince me of that.
Someone needs to be held accountable. And I'm sorry,
right.
If he was sacrificial, if you're going to call it that, then so fucking be it. People need to learn.
I'm not saying
if it wasn't going to be him, it's going to be someone else, which I'm sure we're going to get to later in the show.
But do you think that could have played into it? The state, everybody having the knowledge of everything going on, and the fact that the deliberation took so little time that, one, they feared for their lives if they did not come to a decision that, you had politicians saying that they must come to. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I think everyone just knew he was guilty. He was guilty. Although, like I said, George's decisions in life played into his death. But they are not 100% the reason he died. This man was guilty. Whether the jurors went in there with like their prior decision, like, yes, I'm going to say he's guilty. All of America knows he's guilty. And if you say he's not, you're fucking wrong. Like I said, there's 2 parts. It was 50-50. But at the end of the day, that cop killed him. So, yeah, everyone fucking went into there knowing he was going to be, they were going to say guilty. Whether he got charged with something, whether the judge agreed, I don't know how 100% that works, whether he actually serves time or something, totally different story. But
oh yeah, he will.
Everyone knows he is guilty.
Now, and even with this, with Jason, with your point, and going through that chain of events, do I think that it should have gotten that severe and escalated, especially over a counterfeit bill? No. I could think of 5 different possibilities, even from the point of that manager making the initial phone call and everything coming out, even with that, with the level of being an arrestable offense. You could pick a few different ways of how that's gone, and like Kennedy's right. But with all those different ways, there was only that set path to have Derek Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck for damn near 10 minutes. Even with all the ways and different things going on, that was the main thing that was avoidable. And also, to your further point, yes, you do make the argument about social media making this very widespread knowledge. And yes, we in theory, have a system to where you could get a fair trial by a jury of your peers and all of that. So where could they have gone to get a different outcome?
Oh, I'm saying that
Mm-hmm.
I'm pointing out the legal system's broken due to
Oh.
the information age,
Mm-hmm.
because you have such readily information at your fingertips, and you have everybody that spins things to a narrative. And if you don't believe that people spin something to a narrative, you're a fucking idiot. I'll say it.
You want to hear a narrative, watch any level of U.S. television news media. Any level, almost any network. I can think of maybe 3 that don't, or even have a minimal agenda. And that's local, national, all of that. So
I think all news is biased, because somebody pays the bills, somebody has that agenda, and I think that no matter what, you're gonna see any news outlet spin something to favor one narrative or the other. You never get the truth. My question is, and we're gonna go into a little bit more detail, and this is a question that I want to throw out there. Should anybody else be held accountable for what happened, those events of that day? All the bystanders, all the other police officers, do you hold anybody else accountable, or is it just one person?
No, you hold them all accountable. The officers.
No, I won't say the bystander, not the bystanders. In that situation, particularly, not the bystanders. Bystanders. I can't say that word. Bystander. Am I saying it right? It won't come out
right.
Yeah,
you're saying it right.
Okay, my bad, everyone. I had a stroke.
Question.
Yes.
Reason why I ask. I have a background in EMS, first responder. Why was it no one else called for an ambulance, and everybody was sitting on their phones without
They
intervening?
tried, and you did have a first responder that even go to volunteer aid and was turned away.
I call bullshit on that.
As an EMT.
I call bullshit on that.
Why?
Is that even
Why?
legal?
Yes, because when you're holding a state EMS card, if you see something, there's someone in distress, someone having any kind of medical issues, and you do not render care, you are held liable for anything that happens to that person.
No, I meant the cops. Is it illegal for them to turn the responders away?
A cop cannot return. No, if you are on a scene, because I've had this happen, in my not to me personally, but to one of my former partners. If you are in the vicinity and you see someone in medical distress and you do not provide care, you are held responsible for the outcome of that individual.
So does he have say over the cop then? Because the cop was technically detaining him. So can you provide medical assistance? Because the cop, I feel like in that situation, not his specifically, but in that situation, like the cop's in control.
I feel like if there's some loophole in Minnesota state law or in that jurisdiction where that was allowed to go down, it should automatically be closed, because the situation is like you were describing, Jason. That's exactly how it should be everywhere. But as we all know, states are fucking different.
No, if there's someone, even if a police officer is involved, if there is a suspected person in distress, you are legally held responsible to administer care, at least BLS, which is basic life saving, which means CPR, controlled bleeding, airway.
So hold on. The argument that a lot of people hold is he was yelling, "I can't breathe," right? That's where the argument comes in. He clearly could because he was speaking, right? So technically, well, I'm going to say maybe from the cop's brain, he wasn't in distress because he was responding. He may have been in distress in public eye.
If you're breathing, if you're talking, you're breathing. You have
Exactly.
open
And
So
that's
everywhere.
exactly what
that first
Chauvin
responder
said.
didn't have to respond because he was not in distress, technically.
And that's
But
exactly what Chauvin said. And now, one other kind of caveat, and this is why I say with everything states, is that on a national level, or
yes,
does that vary state to state? If you
it
send
is
me
a
the
national.
link to help clarify that so that way I know going forward.
National EMS protocols. I'll send you the national EMS protocols, Erik.
Please?
It's got it in a PDF. But also, let's. I think that there's a lot of stuff because then we're going to dovetail into this. Because something happened a little bit prior to the verdict, which kind of garnered a lot of attention and has conflicting people, such as celebrities, talking out their ass when they should stick to basketball and not tweet bullshit that without knowing the facts and trying to be someone of relevance.
If this is the way that you're going, I have a mild challenge to that.
Yeah, this is the way I'm going because LeBron James is a fucking idiot.
Okay. So if you're taking the whole,
he has no reason to be held accountable.
If you're taking the whole shut up and dribble argument, that's fine. But no, you're saying you literally just said that he should stick to basketball. Okay.
No.
If you're
I said speak when you know you with all the facts. Quit trying to be out in front of everything, using your celebrity status to gain clout, to push a narrative because of your celebrity status.
So
he made a post. Hold on, I'll give you the floor. He made a post of an officer that was involved in the shooting that saved a life. And had the words accountability. And you're next. If that was let's flip this around, Erik. If me and you's really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
If I made a post with a black officer and said you're next, what would your immediate thought be?
Looking at that, I was like, hey, even with knowing you, I'd be like, all right, next to be on trial, next to be arrested, next to go through
Erik.
This is you. You asked you as the individual, Jason Teasley. I know you. I know what you would be thinking in that sense. So yes, a lot of context. Would a lot of people see it that same way? Hell no. A lot of people would want your head. I would come out and say, hey, not necessarily the case. Hold on with this guy is what he means. Kind of offer, like they say in the Australian Football League, I would give your police explain for you. But if you're looking at it from me, yeah, that's how I would see it. And that's exactly how I saw it in this exact same case. My argument with you is he doesn't necessarily need to do this, as you said, for chasing clout. He doesn't have any more clout to chase with his organization,
Who cares what he has to
with
say?
his school, with his activism, everything else. And I'm sorry, with all these other people and all of these other athletes and stuff doing the same thing and also speaking out in a wide variety of fields, everybody's singling him. So lest we forget, if you want to focus on just everything he did in his basketball career, fine. Focusing on everything that he's done outside of his basketball career too, fine. But you can't get one without the other. It's the same thing with Kobe, and even Michael Jordan still doesn't live down the Republicans buy sneakers too comment. So,
but this is what I'm saying. Should you not educate before you speak?
I do believe you should. Yes, I'm not disputing that part.
As a celebrity, you can push a narrative. He pushed
And
a narrative. He
who's
pushed a
okay?
narrative.
Well, for LeBron James, you can talk about all these other celebrities, Kim Kardashian,
Oh,
everything
I'm
else.
going to.
Fine, but for LeBron
It's
James, who's to say that knowing him and even going all the way back to with the Trayvon Martin case with the Miami Heat, who is to say that even because of all of this, he doesn't take time and educate himself? Even
because
he has
even
enough
tells
you
say.
you
He
he
has
would have to
enough.
come
He
up to
has
some.
enough say as a celebrity that there are young people that follow his Twitter and that he's going to influence them, and that pushes a narrative farther into the future. There are there's young black
Mhm.
African or black or Jesus, sorry, stroke again. There are young black men and women that are going to see his tweet and
There
follow
are.
his narrative for the next shooting and the next shooting and the next stabbing and the next whatever, because he does have so much clout and so much say.
and this
So
is and I'm going to touch on a lot of points you had, but continue, Kennedy.
So he shouldn't have a say. He shouldn't. He's a celebrity. He knows, I'm going to say he knows nothing in the sense that he is pushing what he wants and what he wants to say. And he is such a big influence on young America from his basketball that people are going to listen to him. So the next time people aren't going to take the time to do research because they're going to listen to what he had to say. So the shooting with the white officer, he did save a life. Yes, he did kill a young woman, but he saved a life. And it's bringing it to race when it shouldn't be about race. That was a cop doing his job. If it was a black officer with white kids, or if it was the black officer with the black kids, that would have never been said. It is only because it was a white officer, and that's bullshit because he did his job. It was lethal against lethal. She didn't have a fucking plastic knife. She didn't have, I don't even know what else to use as an example right now. She had a lethal weapon against people, and he did his job using lethal against lethal. And by LeBron James saying what he said, it's bullshit because he's going to push a narrative for young people to just sit there and continue to think white officers are bad.
And I'm going to continue on. Then I'm going to turn it over to you, Erik. I'm doing this. I'm speaking on this for LeBron James because he's never owned it. And yeah, I think I've made my feelings on LeBron James on the basketball court. I think he's a bitch. He does a lot of community stuff. And we spoke on this. I mean, you actually spoke on this in one of our previous episodes about his community work. And I told you, off the court, what he does for the community, I respect.
Yeah.
But when you have that, and this is the point I'm making, is because you're going to push a narrative. Cardi B pushes a narrative about being a hoe. Is it the narrative I want my daughter to have? No. But she owns it.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I think honestly, and this is going to sound convoluted, the worst thing he did was to go ahead and take down that tweet. Yeah, he should have.
Exactly.
He should have left it up. He should have gone ahead, had that conversation, that dialogue, and definitely own it. No problem, because that furthers the education, even like Keneddi said, for a lot of the people who aren't going to go ahead and form their own thoughts and everything, which is a danger in of itself we've talked about. It's like, hey, let me offer my stance, what I mean, how this should go. Everybody talks about they want to start a conversation and keep it going. Well, then don't go ahead and do something. Don't go, like the old saying is, don't throw the rock and then hide your hand. Throw the rock and raise your hand. It's like, yeah, I threw it. This is exactly why. This is who I want to hit.
He just looks guilty of talking out of his ass now. He tweeted that out of his own feelings and not out of fact. So the fact that he deleted it, now he can't back himself up.
And this is why I say this, and this is a big point that I'm going to make on LeBron. Is in an interview recently, he shown holding the biography of Malcolm X and trying to make himself look educated. Reporter starts talking about the biography, starts asking questions about it that's nowhere in the book, and LeBron goes along and is agreeing with everything the reporter's saying, and then the reporter calls him out on it and goes, yeah, this is not in the book. This is not any of his teachings. This is nothing remotely to that. And LeBron is made to look like an idiot. And he ends the interview and storms off. My problem is if you're a celebrity, use your voice to bridge the gap, not widen it. Educate yourself before you speak. This is the issue I have, is because of all the good he does in the community, he negated all that with that one tweet. He is now looked at completely different. It goes back to the old saying that, I had an old man tell me at coal mines before, you could save 100 lives, but you fuck one goat. What are you remembered as? A hero or a goat fucker? And that goes to that point. I'm saying that as a celebrity, your political views is your own. Don't use it as a platform to push a narrative at all. And I'm going to give you the floor, man. I'm going to let you rant and rave, and give you equal time. But this is the problem I have. If you're going to speak on something, be educated. It is better to keep your mouth and be seen as a fool than open it and to confirm it. It's one of my favorite quotes, because if you stay silent, people wonder what you're thinking and don't really take on the narrative that you're full. If the tweet would have been left up, and you would have seen him make a follow-up tweet, saying, look, I let my personal feelings get in the way before knowing the full context of everything. I misspoke. That garners you respect. That shows that, yes, you are an athlete. You fucked up. You make mistakes. You could be emotional. But just taking down the tweet and not saying a word about it makes you look guilty. Now, God, I got to carry this show for a second till somebody gets back. And this thing is crazy, because it's a young girl lost her life. That's tragic. And the girl that lost her life, by all accounts, what I've seen was she was jumped. She was getting the shit beat out of her. The cops were called. She was brandishing a weapon. When the cops pulled up, she was going after this girl's jugular. The body cam shows that it was a split-second decision. And if you see the full body cam footage, you see her dad, is what is assumed to be her dad, curb stomping another girl, and no one is trying to intervene. So it was a split-second decision that had to be made. If the cop done nothing, he would have been looked at as, well, he should have intervened. So he was in a no-win situation. Now, if this cop would have been black, would that narrative been pushed? No. And it's tragic. I mean, anybody losing their life is tragic. But you also got to know, making a decision like that in a spur of the moment instance is fucked up. But Erik, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. I'm going to let you talk. I want to know where you stand, where you're coming from, because there's a follow-up thing that I'm going to touch on right after this concerning something. So the floor is yours, Mr. Erik.
All right. one main thing, looking at all the statistics and actually having my own mixed encounters with police officers. Some good, some bad. I think that there are definitely fundamental flaws within the system that need to be fixed. That said, I could go to the other case in Minneapolis. Why is it that even with all of the procedure, that particular officer, her instinct was to reach for her right hip, knowing that long time as a veteran as she is?
No, you're talking about a different story.
Well, because I'm actually wrapping all of these together.
We'll get into that story too.
Yeah,
because I think that's a complete fuck up. I think that bitch. I think that person. That story, when we talk about it, we can dovetail off what you have to say.
Right, because I was only just that little bit, and then with the other case with that girl, do I also in that moment understand, especially with the knife, why the officer would go for the weapon and everything? In a lot of ways, yes. But 4 times, I think, especially in that case, was a bit excessive. And that's where my flaw I was going to get into kind of comes in, is we're going to talk about this more. One of the main things is a little bit in hiring practices. I'll get into that more later. And in these instances, training. Yes, I understand you have got to make blink of an eye, split second, these kinds of decisions lightning quick. I understand that with the way the processes of a human brain, it even takes 1/10 of a second to blink an eye. We're talking just, you have to go based upon muscle memory and things like that. So that's part of my issue is with all of this, with the training. Yes, you're following the training. Yes, you're following these split-second decisions, but you would think, and this is from an interesting report that I had even read and dug into, Marietta, Georgia. You know what the police department in Marietta, Georgia did fairly recently as part of a trial?
What's that?
Mandatory Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lessons. Mandatory. All the police had to go through them. What happened with their limited sample size, I do agree, officer injuries, which are potential in any of these situations as well, decreased. Suspect injuries decreased. And there was a more effective means of de-escalation. So I get in certain situations why some of this would happen. But if you're looking at everything in a totality between Chicago, Minneapolis, like in this case right here, there's got to be some sort of connected flaw. And I think that at least in some part is the training. I understand it. I think there was some sort of excess. There should be accountability held. Don't get me wrong. Plus, there were even a lot more cases to where, in that particular instance, leading up to that fight, where the system failed as well.
Yes. And we're going to get into some topics here. But my problem is you got to make a split decision. Do you think the officer was justified in the shooting? Just yes, no. We're going to keep this black-white.
So to speak. I see what you did there. As weird as it's going to sound, I am going to say yes. Because with that state and all of that, she could have lunged at him, all that. I get that. So, in that case, one shot could have been done.
Keneddi, justified?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna say one shot could have been done. One shot could have went to the shoulder. One shot doesn't always do it, depending on who you are. But
Yeah, depending
what
on who
I'm
you are.
gonna
In this case, it could have.
what I'm gonna say is that one, um, he did not have failed training. He did everything he was supposed to do correctly. Two, her community failed her. How many people were out there watching this 15-year-old? I think she was 15. Don't quote me.
16,
This
16,
16-year-old
16.
girl get her ass beat and videotape it and World Star and this and that. There were enough adults or older teenagers out there to stop what was happening before the police even got there. Her community failed her 110%.
And that's part of what I
Secondly,
was leading up to, as far as even with leading up to that, instances of bullying, instances of her being targeted, all this and that. Where was intervention prior? So many
second,
more question marks.
secondly, he did everything absolutely correct. This is one situation where I'll say race had zero things to do with this. You have I'm going to call her a woman because you're old enough to make the decision to fucking stab somebody to kill them. I get she was getting jumped, but that is lethal. You made the decision to stab somebody, right? So she was wielding a knife. When you have lethal, you use lethal against it. And also, imagine getting a taser or a knife wielded at you. What happens when you tase somebody? Everybody just visualize what happens when someone gets tased. Do I want to tase somebody who is wielding a knife? Probably fucking not. That's a really stupid decision. So, like I said before, she didn't have a butter knife. She didn't have, again, I can't think of a fucking another thing off the top of my head to use as a non-lethal weapon. But you had a lethal weapon. You were grown enough to make the decision to use it, and you did not listen to commands. You continued to do it. So guess what? You got shot. I'm not saying it's 100% correct, but you cannot hold that officer to blame for her dying because he did his job 100% correctly.
Have you guys seen the video? Just yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Erik,
Mm-hmm.
how many people were around?
More than enough.
Quite a few.
No. Okay, so you have two police officers with high tensions against police officers already going into a situation where you're outnumbered, and you come into a situation where you have to make a split-second decision. That factors in. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That's going to factor in. Could it have been handled differently? No, I don't think so. I think it was justified. And like I said earlier, I think if something wasn't done, he would have been prosecuted and crucified for not doing something. But this is the problem.
Someone was going to die either way. Someone was going to get stabbed or someone was going to get shot.
You're either going to have one body bag or multiple body bags, because if the cop didn't act, how do you think that mob mentality would have been? The cop did act, and people backed the fuck up because shit got real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, we're going to talk about this because this is a major story, right? Everybody's heard about this. You got celebrities tweeting about it and everything. You know what you haven't heard about? Anybody want to guess?
Is that an actual? I didn't know if that was rhetorical or not. I was waiting.
Yeah, I think it was actually the same day. It was. Let's see here. Let me see when the shooting took place.
I'm assuming it was April a white person.
Nope.
No,
it was a 7-year-old that got shot multiple times in the McDonald's drive-thru that nobody is hearing about. You don't have celebrities talking about it. You want to know why? And this is my honest opinion. One, it happened in Chicago, one of the places that have the strictest gun laws. Yippee. Two, it wasn't
strictest gun laws that you can also get around. How many people have hopped right across the border into Indiana, gotten everything, and then go back?
No, I'm saying, but Chicago.
His point is that it shouldn't have happened because of how strict their gun laws are.
Yeah. So I mean, it goes. I'll say the same. If you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. Laws are meant to be broken. Rules are meant to be broken. You'll find a way to. But why aren't we? Why ain't these athletes saying her name? Because is it because it's common? Because it wasn't racially motivated?
Was it a police shooting?
No, it was.
That's my point. No, that was my point.
She's
It
right.
was. It was. There was. She got. I think she got shot 6 times.
It's because it wasn't something to cover. It's because it
because-
was a place like Chicago where this happens all the time. And yes,
Yeah.
it's sad it's a little girl, but there was nothing the media could push. Because I'm going to say, like, it was either gang violence or black on black crime or something,
Oh,
quote
yeah.
unquote,
And they do
normal.
6 times.
Chicago, they do the same thing with Baltimore. It's like, oh yeah,
It's because it was a normal setting.
Yeah, these different murder capitals as they have it. It's like, fine, you can make TV shows about it. What the fuck are you really gonna do about it?
Yeah. So I mean, if it's the normal, why aren't these politicians that's running these not making reform there? Why?
They don't care. They can't push a narrative
No,
with it. They don't
hold
care.
on, Eric.
It's not just that. It's like, I'm sorry, who gives them a whole bunch of money? That's who the people that are going to care about. I have seen way too many times a politician turn a blind eye to a whole bunch of shit because it's more and more important that they get their bag.
Exactly.
Oh, especially here in Florida.
When
Oh,
and we're going to touch on this real quick. This is a topic me and Eric touched on previously, and if you want to hear mine and Eric's take on it, definitely go back and check the Black Irish Archives here on the W2M Network. And you know how you can listen to that, Eric?
well, you can listen via Amazon Music. Now, if you have an Alexa-enabled device, you can go ahead and say, hey, Alexa, play W2M Network. And it'll automatically play the most recent great W2M Network show that's around. Will be it Black Irish. We just did our draft preview for the kickoff. Jason, you were on a Rattleitch Broadcasting show reviewing Mortal Kombat. So we have a variety of fantastic programming. But if for whatever reason you want to listen to something outside of the W2M network, absolutely fine. We won't hate you too much because there's a whole bunch of library audiobooks, other podcasts, music in general, all at your fingertips. And if you want to get a good trial on it, just go to getamazonmusic.com/W2M network and that'll get you started. Getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. That ad also partially presented to you by Smirnoff.
Okay, so now this is this is going to be there. So my problem is when I want to try to find a good way to position this for you, Keneddi, because like I said, me and Eric's covered this in depth in a previous episode. When you go to a low income, highly populated, not too informed setting, and you take away education, you can control the narrative. The biggest contradiction is, and this is me and Eric talked about this because you see this a lot in inner cities, is money controls education, and an uneducated mind is a sheep that will follow anything. So I just want to get your take on that. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the whole, because you see a lot of these, like we said, Baltimore, Chicago, a lot of inner city violence, a lot of black on black crime, because education's lacking. And you see a lot of people that speak out that are not informed, not educated. So I want your take on this.
I grew up in an area where it was very predominantly black, and growing up there as a white person, I definitely had a sheep mentality because I listened to all my friends every time it happened, and you would just listen because I had a lot of black friends, so it was like someone got shot and killed, and you heard like police. It was the same narrative now, but obviously not as media covered, just back home. And so growing up, it was this person's bad, that person's bad, because in those neighborhoods, that's all that's taught. So now growing up, I don't live there anymore. Um, I'm more educated because I listen and I learn and I read. I see these people I went to high school with, and they push the same narrative they were when we were 15 years old. And it doesn't ever change. And I feel like when you're growing up in those areas, like it's going to happen. It just is what it is. But what happens is people get stuck in that mentality, and they don't want to grow up because then they just play the poor me, the world's smallest violin. And because of where they were raised and where they grow up, like, feel bad for me. This is the area. It sucks. And they don't ever branch out and try to learn what's really going on. And they just play I grew up in Buffalo, New York. So I grew up in Buffalo. My life was hard. There were shootings, there were stabbings, this and that. And that's all they learn. And that's all they'll push because they never try to learn different. That it's not always. I'll say, well, you just use racially motivated as an example because that's a lot of what it was when I was growing up too. People don't want to see the bigger picture based on where they've grown up.
All right, so all three of us come from a very diverse background. Erik, you grew up in Maryland, right?
Actually grew up here in Jacksonville, but I did spend a few years in Maryland in high school.
Okay. Keneddi, you're from Buffalo, and you just gave us some backstory there. I'm from a predominantly white southern West Virginia town where it was not uncommon to see students roll up in pickup trucks with gun racks in the back with 12 gauge shotguns on there to go hunting after they got out of school. There was racial tensions in my high school, like there is, because you have good old boys and everything. You have that mentality. My question is, and this is going to be a loaded question before we go on to the next topic, is racism, is it taught or inherited?
Taught. Erik, I didn't know if that was supposed to follow up on that.
No, because it's like for the both of us, and for me, I don't necessarily want to say it's inherited because you're really just a blank slate. You really are. And honestly, for any sort of idea to perpetuate and to go forward, you have to pass those ideas on through teaching. And I say this as a math tutor. It's like, okay, you can know some like certain things, but there's different methods of doing that, different ways of even understanding a math problem, and I've run into that. And I have had so many of the people I've taught come and thank me because it's like, hey, you as my tutor, you gave me that boost, you taught me these things, and I can go out and spread that on. And yeah, it goes with the same thing like the racism. If you were taught to identify someone and it looks different and it's like, okay, this person's bad, you naturally ask why. And you get that whole list of things and list of bullshit reasons, and that's what you start with. And you go from there. And if you're not taught anything different, that's what it sticks. And then you teach that to the next generation and so on and so forth.
Well, you see those videos, and I don't know exactly which one it is, but you'll have a little kid, and there's a white man and a black man standing in front of them. Or, excuse me, I think it was a white woman and a black man standing in front of them. And they look at the little kid, and they go, what's different between them? And the first thing, well, she's a guy, or she's a girl. I cannot speak tonight. She's a girl, and he's a guy.
And I thought I was one on the podcast.
Hold up. Quit assuming genders.
Oh, yeah, okay. And so the next one, well, what else is different? Well, he's tall and she's short. Well, what else? She has red hair and he has black hair. Not once do these little kids go, he's what? Or Jesus fucking Christ, she's white and he's black. It is taught. Kids literally, they see you as a human. That shit is taught.
And I feel the exact same way. Because I think you're a product of your environment. Nature versus nurture. I think you're a product of your environment. Reason being said that is, yes, I did grow up from a very poverty-stricken hometown. I did not have the lifestyle that I have now is vastly greater than what I grew up in. My mom worked 2 jobs. My real dad committed suicide when I was 3. The guy that I knew as a stepdad growing up died in a drunk driver accident when I was 13. I've had a pretty shitty life until I met my wife. My wife and I have built an amazing life together. But with that being said, I look at people ask me why I don't go back to my hometown, except when my mother was alive. Keneddi, don't jump in.
She be too tongue twisted to even really say anything, so I think you're good tonight.
But when my mother was alive, everybody asked me why I never. She would always ask why I didn't visit more, and I was going back and I was seeing people I was friends with in high school that had a poverty-stricken lifestyle. They hit it, that their family received assistance and everything, and now that they're in that cycle, and I see people that, and I've had conversations with people say, "Why don't you break the cycle?" And I've been told, because why work for something when I can get it for free? This is the only life I know. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you want better for you and your children? And it's like, it's the only life I know. So they grew up on government assistance and they continue the cycle. And they're teaching that cycle. It's just like racism, in my opinion. You grow up in a environment that teaches you a black man is bad. Yeah, is there bad black people? Yeah, just as equally as bad as there's white people or Korean people or Japanese people or Chinese. Every race, gender, ethnicity, everything has shit stains on them. There's nobody that is pure, that has nothing bad. And this is where I'm going with this point, because I feel that we have a pretty diverse group here to tackle this, because we all see different facets of it, but we can all agree on our experiences, seeing it from a different light, and all come to the agreement that this is something taught to us so much that I had one of my best friends growing up in school. Once he left, he said, we was at a state tournament basketball game, and it was a school that was like 4 hours away. He was talking to me, and he said something about being stared at by this little kid, and this little kid walks over to him and just stares at him to the point where we was uncomfortable. There was about 4 or 5 of us. He was the only black kid in the group, and the little kid said, "Can I touch you?" And my friend was like, "Yeah, man, cool jersey." He had a basketball jersey. He's like, "Yeah, man, I like your jersey." He said, "I want to shake your hand." I said, "Okay." Shook his hand, and he took his hand. The little boy took his hand and rubbed it down my friend's forearm, and then looked at his hand and said, and he turns around and looks at his dad. He said, "You lied to me. It doesn't rub off on me." And that was.
I would have threw hands. I would have fucking fought.
Oh, it was. Well, we was in so much shock, and this guy beelined, like he vanished, because it was the shock of a large group of people heard what was said, and this guy bounced, like vanished, and we kind of laughed it off at the time
Yo, I'm
because I
hot
mean,
right now. I'm angry.
like
I'm
like
angry.
like we laughed it off. We laughed it off at the time because we was kids. We was teenagers. We didn't know the gravity of it till we got older.
Yeah, I
And
would have had just an interesting conversation with a kid and not like that. But if I'm fighting the adult, I'm like,
well, it was one of those. It was the kid ran away after he said it. He ran toward his parents, and his dad bounced. His dad just was gone. So the kid probably was running through a sea of people, and it was just like one of that 10 seconds of the fuck mentality before we even could react. And then like I mean, it's like one of those things that you have like a large crowd that just goes completely silent for a second, like one of those moments. And it was really fucked up. And growing up, to know now, looking back on it now, we talked about it since then. He was like, man, he's like, I never realized what the fuck was going on when that happened. He said, and now to see that something like that happened, he said, it changed my perspective greatly. So you do have people out there that teach their children these horrendous things. And with that, I'm going to give you guys closing statements on that, and then we're going to move into our last story of the night.
I'm just
something
mad
like
right
that,
now.
like I said, I would have just taken that opportunity, talk with the kid. I wouldn't have been mad. I would have had that kind of what the fuck moment, but I would have been like, hey, what do you mean and all this and that, and try to have the kid walk away a little bit better, learning and knowing something different. Because I mean, in my time, even here in Jacksonville, where I am I fond of everything that's going really on here? No, and that's across the board. If I had, a main opportunity, especially with my business or something takes off here, otherwise I get to bounce to somewhere different, I would. But I have that perspective on that here because of being in a couple of different environments, like the one that I was in Maryland. I was able to adapt because I feel like myself, I've always been an adaptable person. Go with the flow and you'll always come out in the wash. But with these different experiences, I get how some people are. I get even how I am, and with all of these differences, what I want to, if with the opportunity, make whatever differences and changes I can, absolutely. Absolutely. And have all these conversations and this different dialogue so that way people hear something different, learn something different, think something different, and eventually know something different, and then anticipate something different with that knowledge and truly build what we have as intelligence. That would be great.
All right, Keneddi, I'm going to give you the last word before we move on, because you're going to have the first word on our next story.
Oh, how nice. No, that just reminded me of when I was younger. Like, I got made fun of. I won't say like for being white, but not fitting in as much, because like kids would dance and sing, and like a lot of it was just like everyone would just watch black entertainment and be on the up and up when we were younger, you know what I mean? And so it was hard for me growing up trying to keep up with the trends and shit. But the kids that were mean to me, that didn't make my view on all black people bad, you know what I mean? And that's where people, I think, struggle, because your friend could have taken that as fuck white people, because he had a bad experience with white people and just said fuck white people. And I think a lot of people have bad experiences and then just go, fuck it. I took that as those were shitty people. And it's not because they were black. It's because they were just dickhead kids, So I think it is taught. but you can also teach yourself by giving yourself experiences and actually meeting people, because I'm assuming racist people just look at like black people or Mexican people or Asian people, whatever, and go, they're bad people because of their race, but they never take the time to get to know anybody of that race. So I think everyone just needs to like chill and meet people of different races and actually get an opinion and not learn it, because if you don't talk to anybody, then you don't know, and then you're just blind on the subject, and then you're fucking stupid.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to a lovely article written, and just want to throw this out there, Eric. You know where you can write lovely articles as well as emails to your loved ones?
Well, I mean, you can just use Grammarly. If you got a good job as a freelance writer, or you want to send an email to that loved one halfway across the world that you can't quite get to during these troubled times, use Grammarly. Not only will you get just the common spelling errors, like you would often see sometimes on poorly written resumes, or typos that you would see in all these other places. No, Grammarly will help with all sorts of context, the tone, how you're feeling. Maybe you want to send a particularly angry email to s.garmer@gmail.com because you don't like tonight's topic of conversation. Grammarly will let you know with an emoji. Yes, do you mean to sound this angry? Do you mean for this particular tweet to sound friendly? Are you trying to give advice? Grammarly will help in all of those different facets. So be it for a job application, be it for that big time article, for that email, what have you. And if you want to enjoy all of these benefits, well, you've come to the right place. You can get a trial by going to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network, and you will get all of the benefits and even look into some extra premium benefits for additional things that Grammarly will help you out with. But in order to get started on that, you have to go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network.
And with that, Keneddi, I'm going to give you after I broke you and you had to mute your microphone from laughing from the group chat, I'm going to give you the lead on this because you have personal experience in this person's field as a personnel. There was a incident in Virginia that occurred in December. That has just been brought to light because there's been, for some reason, it caught media attention several months after it happened. It was a black National Guardsman who was followed for over a mile, pulled into a gas station, and the events led to him getting pepper sprayed and tased. I'm gonna open this up to you, and I'm just gonna let you go off on it. I want your unfiltered, lovely opinion about what went down and how it's being spun. So the floor is yours.
So I don't use my uniform card ever. I don't like using it. I've been pulled over by police officers, and yes, I understand I'm a white woman, but shit goes down. When you are in uniform, you always use the utmost respect, because not only can you get in trouble with state police, you can get in trouble with the military. So if they identify you as military, you especially cover your ass. I watched this footage, right? And he said he slowed down because he was getting pulled over in a not lit, just, I don't remember if it was a dirt road, but it wasn't like,
it wasn't well lit.
Yeah.
And that's what led him to the gas station.
So he slowed down. I'm 90% sure he put his lights, his hazards on, so they knew he was responding to them. He slowed down and then pulled into a gas station. Word for word, I remember in that video, after his hands were up, you could see his hands. He wasn't doing anything. He was responding. He was asking questions because they followed him for his tint and because he didn't have a license plate, but his tag, like his fake one, not fake, but like the
Temporary.
Temporary, thank you. One was up in the window. And he said, I'm nervous right now or I'm scared. And that cop said, you should be. All right. I'm pretty sure those cops were not white, but you were talking to one, a service member who is complying with you, who is not giving you any problems. Two, somebody you know is scared because of everything going on. His hands were up in the window and your answer was you should be. Why the fuck would you think, like, they reached in and got him and then you pepper spray him? Like, it just blows my mind when I watch it. Because your answer was you should be. What did he have to be scared of if he was getting pulled over for tint and a license plate? There is no reason that man should have got pulled out of his car.
I'm gonna jump in here. The video that was released and the full video are two different contexts. The video that was released that the narrative is spun on frames things a totally different way. There's it's like a 7 or 8 minute video where he was asked to turn the vehicle off multiple times, did not comply. He was asked multiple times to do something, did not comply.
But why did he need to? It was for a tint and a license plate. There's no reason that man should have had to shut his vehicle off or get out.
Hold on. When you on any traffic stop that I've personally been on and multiple people that I know have been on, and I have law enforcement officers, one of the things they ask you to do is to turn off your vehicle.
I have never.
It is a common thing to be asked to turn off your vehicle.
It's fairly common.
Because
I don't know if it was just where I live, but I have never had to do that.
Or at the very least, pull over and go in park. So
yes.
Also, the fact that you brought up a good point with the tensions in the area, with everything going on. It was illegal tint. They could not see inside the vehicle. You roll up on somebody. I've seen it. I've seen a video just the other day. A police officer took two to the chest when he pulled up on a vehicle that had dark tint. Guys shot him.
But everything escalated after that.
Well,
the situation, the window was down. It's not like anything happened as he's rolling the window down. The situation did not need to get escalated. I understand what you're saying, but there was no reason for it to go the way it did because that situation wasn't.
The one cop handled it completely, could have handled it better. The other cop was in the right. The one cop, the one that said you should be.
Why would he want to get out of his car for that? For how many black men have gotten shot and killed by police officers? Also, why would you think anybody would want to step out of their car and comply with military or not when that sentence comes the fuck out of your mouth? I wouldn't.
And initially telling him to pull over and turn the engine off in an area that is not well lit. All parties, including the police officers, because I've even been in a car accident at night. One of the main things that even I asked for is, hey, could I get a flashlight so that way I could take photos and stuff to inspect the damage? I didn't get it. That led to a complicated situation because the area that I was in was only semi-well lit coming off a bridge. So in that situation, why would you immediately ask pulling over in a fairly dark area, even with all of that going on? That is a question for universal safety, not just for him in the car, but even for the officers as well. That is, to me, a little bit questionable.
That situation just shouldn't have gone down the way it did. And like I said, I'm going to use uniform as an excuse. I'm not saying like if it is he wasn't complying, if I didn't see the complete video, I understand that. But the way that one officer acted is completely unexcusable.
Yes, the one officer could have handled it better. I'm trying to find the full video. Because
I am telling y'all, when we are in uniform and we get pulled over, we act grade fucking A because that shit gets back to your command.
Yeah, because you're dealing with the MPs, anything like court martial, tribunals, all of that kind of shit. So
Yo, they do half month's pay times 2 if you get put on restriction. I'm not trying to get my paycheck cut in half for 2 months.
ooh,
Hell nah.
yeah, I wouldn't want
So
my
like
money
I said,
fucked with that
I,
hard. Like, nigga.
I may have not seen the full video, but I'm telling you, especially him being I can't remember. He's the equivalent of a lieutenant. I think he was a captain. Our ranks are different in the Navy. But
Yeah,
being who he was and having like enough rank, there's no being in uniform. I think he answered the best way he could by being scared as a black man in the United States because your
I
uniform only will
disagree.
take you so far.
and
Your uniform only takes you so far.
especially with an issue with the officers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that in Virginia?
Yes, it was in
Yes.
Virginia.
Oh, name a couple of big military institutions and other institutions that are in Virginia. You've got the Pentagon. You've got Quantico. You've
DC.
got CIA headquarters and stuff in Langley. So you would think as officers, it's like, oh, there's a lot of military and stuff around. That's why I say that one officer, what was going on with him? A lot of that, and feel like I haven't watched the full video either, but between this and even with these other details, I think there were questionable actions even from the get-go.
And
This doesn't
also,
even say anything about his tint. This just says they got pulled over because of his license plate. And also,
the
as a service member, I want to say he said, I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated. You're not entitled to shit when you're serving this country. So, sir, fuck off.
Yeah,
no,
with all
I'm
of
saying,
that, you can
scroll
easily
down.
tell like Vietnam vets and stuff who have served this country and how they've been treated. But we ain't even talking about that right now.
Scroll down to the body cam footage. That's why I said it. The body
Okay,
cam
1 second.
footage is on. Yeah, it's like 649 worth of body cam footage. Also,
So, white cop is doing the right thing. It's that I think the cop looks Latino. The other
yeah,
one,
he is.
that Latino cop is way fucking out of line. I'll say that white dude was doing everything correct. But right here, he puts his hands out of the window immediately. He is showing his hands. He is not a threat. He has, I don't know, I think that's a gun. It's not a taser. He has guns drawn on him. His hands are out of the window. There's nothing for that Latino officer to sit there and act the way he did. I'm not going to say that the lieutenant did 100%. Like if they said shut the car off, I get that. But by him saying that you should be scared, that 100% immediately, whether you are white, black, whatever, you are a cop and you have a gun pointed in my, you have 2 guns right here pointed at him. You tell me I should be scared when you have a gun in my face, you can completely fuck off.
And also, it wasn't because the initial reason why they got behind it. The initial reason they got behind him is he was also driving. From everything that I've read and reports I've seen that hasn't, because I've seen multiple, he was also driving under the speed limit, which in an area, and this is profiling. I'm going to say that this is profiling a vehicle, dark tinted windows, driving under the speed limit.
Sir, get out of the car now. Hey, get out of the car now.
Yeah, you're usually profiling because
Yeah.
they assume some sort of suspicious activity.
Are they
Right.
allowed to reach in your vehicle and unlock the door?
Yes, if they have probable cause.
What's the probable cause for them to do this?
Well, I'm watching the video too.
They had no
like I
probable
said-
cause to reach in his. That is a normal traffic stop for his license plate. There is no reason guns should have been drawn. There's no reason he should have been forced out of his car, and there is 0 reason he should have been pepper sprayed. His hands were out of the window. He was asking the questions he is allowed to ask. Why the fuck were guns pointed on him, and why was he pepper sprayed?
Not
He
to
pulled
mention
into a gas
hands out,
station.
and as they
You
teach in
don't?
active shooter situations, hands out, fingers spread. So that's immediately showing I do not have a weapon or anything of that.
His hands were out of his vehicle
Question.
literally as soon as they stopped him.
Question: How many people were in that vehicle? If you
Him
look at that
and
vehicle,
his dog.
You looking at that vehicle? You pull up on that vehicle. How many people are in that vehicle? Can you see in it?
No.
Oh, okay. So you
Okay,
don't know
but
if
why
there's
do you have
anybody
your guns drawn? Again,
because you
you
don't.
don't know. You don't know. So why are your guns drawn? You were using lethal force when it is
That
not
is not
warranted.
loose.
No,
A gun is not
but
lethal.
but
Say
this
that
is this is
there's
the
not
whole
force being used.
in this.
Yeah,
Okay,
you have
so
a
you're
gun
saying,
drawn.
oh, it's not force being used because they're not actively shooting. Hold on. So in an immediate situation, yes, with all of that, and I could get, you could call for backup, all this and that if you don't know and if you can't run the plate. This is exactly what I'm talking about with training. Why even in that
This was
instance?
100% wrong on that one cop. There's no reason this man should have gotten taken out of his car or pepper sprayed or guns pointed at him. And I understand, Jason, what you're saying, where you can't see in that car. But again, you can't see in that car. You can use it in the ways there could have been 4 people in there, but guess what? There wasn't. There was him and his dog. And
So
he
it's
had 2 guns pointed at him and got
and
pepper sprayed and
and at
forced out of
some
his
point
vehicle.
when you do know it was just him and his dog and that was that, and you cleared the scene, you can put away the guns.
Yep. And
And
they
You
that's
can
did
put
it.
them
what
away.
happened. That's what happened with one officer. The like I said, the one officer totally handled it wrong. The other officer, I there's a lot of stuff to unpack on this, and seeing things, and this goes back to what I said earlier. You They released 2 minutes of the video instead of the whole video, and they spun the narrative to be one way or other because it's been on both sides. And this is what I'm saying. This is where you see things being spun on both sides. And this is the point I'm making. Keneddi, you said you hadn't seen the full video till just now, correct?
No, that was the video I watched. I was right with my first statement.
Okay, so you've seen the full video, the full basically 7-minute video.
Yeah, that's what I watched the first time.
Okay. So now if you search that video, you know how long it took me to find that? It took me about 5 minutes. Because you see the 2 minute, you see 2.5 minute videos where things are framed completely differently.
Hold on.
And you just see the escalation. You don't see anything in context. And this is the point I'm making. One, you should comply. On a traffic stop, comply. Even if, and this goes back to something I heard earlier today. If you don't want issues, don't do shady shit.
Okay, so
It's
what
the
if?
5th video down when I Google it.
So what
The
if?
full one.
It was the page 2 when I.
Nope, it's page 1 for me.
So
Yeah, it was
what
page
if
2 for me.
and with all of these instances that you're not doing anything shady, you do comply all of that, and things do still happen. And I'm even going to relate this to the 13-year-old in Chicago. That could have been avoided, but one of my main questions was, why is he out with someone who's like 21 at 2 in the morning? Where were his parents? I use that as an immediate qualifier, but I also use this. If you do all of that, and you do comply all of these things, and something still happens, then what? Then what?
Exactly, and this is the point I'm making. We had 3 totally different takes on it. We that was shaped on how we seen the videos and the narrative that was displayed when we seen the videos. And this is what I'm saying is, do I agree with how everything went down? No. I think it could have been handled a lot differently in some aspects. In some aspects, I do agree. Some aspects, I don't. So I'm middle of the road on this one. Not so. I'm not going to say everything was done correctly because it wasn't. I'm not going to say everything was done, that there was shit that was done that was incorrect. I'm neutral on this one. I think a lot of shit was done wrong. A lot of shit I can understand. It's for me to know and not voice on that fence because I like the debate. I like playing devil's advocate. So with that being said, do you guys got any closing arguments on anything we discussed tonight and the state of our law enforcement? Because my closing thoughts is going to be a really good discussion for you guys to think about.
We're talking about the state of everything in a totality. Everybody needs to take a moment and think. For all of the cries about defunding the police, because I know with all of this going on, it's going to be another thing, especially with what happened in Minneapolis. If you're using the word defund, know exactly what you mean. Not disband, but reallocate. Because there are some things across the board that do need to change. And everybody take a moment, because the George Floyd Reform and Policing Act already being reignited, all this and that, take the time before you automatically switch and pick your side as to how you feel. It's available, at least it should be. Go ahead and read through it. I have my preliminary ideas, but I'm going to do the same. Read through it, and then open your mouth and decide what. Because do I like it based upon the bare bones and certain things that need to happen? Yes. But that's just based on bare bones. I'm going to go ahead and read the thing in depth, so that way I can even have a better idea what I think, if anything, in it should change, it shouldn't. I don't know. Everybody, my suggestion, sit back, take a breath, and if you are so inclined to go before you try doing anything, smoke a little bit first. Mellow out, then clear your head, and then think, okay, now what?
Keneddi?
I just want to say, whether you are white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, whether you are guilty or not guilty, we are at the point that our police are not being held accountable when they should be. So just listen. Whether you want to or don't want to, whether they're right or you're right or wrong or whatever, it's not worth your fucking life trying to make a point to a police officer anymore. So just do what they say, and it'll probably be a better outcome. And I know that sounds shitty, but it's not worth it.
You up your chances. I'm not going to guarantee you a better outcome. You up your chances.
Yep.
Now,
Right.
here's where I'm going to piss a lot of people off, because, like I said, I play devil's advocate, and I have a solution to end racism with law enforcement. Hire nothing but black officers. Then there's no racism, right? I got a chuckle out of Eric.
Because I know, looking at it and looking at the hiring practices over a whole of departments, and I'm like, ideally, would that fits a whole bunch of shit either?
No. Or
you can do Keneddi. You were
hold on.
thinking too. It's like, yeah, but ooh, like,
hold on.
No.
No, hold on. Or on any when the 911 call comes in or everything, if it is identified as a African American or a person of color, you send a person of color police officer to deal with the situation.
I just don't think there's not enough response to be able for that to happen.
Exactly. So that's not feasibly possible, correct?
Yeah,
Probably
and
not.
especially again with the overall
So
hiring of
quit
departments,
forcing-
that can't be guaranteed. That's way too much of a logistics nightmare.
So quit pushing the narrative. See the facts. Quit. Yes, are there bad cops? Yeah. There's bad people everywhere.
There's bad everybody. There's bad white,
Right.
black, Mexican. There's bad everybody. Bad cop.
Look at Keneddi. She makes fun of my dead mom.
No, I don't.
But
Can't.
do I judge her? Do I judge anybody in her family because she makes fun of my dead mom? No.
This will be my last Black Irish episode. It was nice working with everybody.
No,
What,
I'm saying.
you can't
I'm
handle
saying.
oaths. You're just gonna make fun of dead parents and then say you're gonna leave? Really?
Peace.
So no, I mean, I say that in a joking manner because that's a way to end it. Because if you do it that way, then and I'm saying, like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here and coming up offering offhanded solutions because no, it's not feasible. If you had one black guy on the department, he's going to be a busy motherfucker.
We'll say it like Morgan Freeman said it. Stop talking about it. Stop talking about racism. It's going to die if you stop talking about it. Stop making everything racist and stop making this divide. Stop calling every white person racist. Stop calling every black person something I will ever refuse to say in my life. So,
Okay.
Stop pushing it to be everyone's racist or everyone's a thug and just...
Yeah, so fuck, like I say with U.S. media. All the big networks, from, even your Fox News, your MSNBC, all of that, if you are dictated by ratings, fuck off. If you are Sinclair Media or any other of the media conglomerates that go ahead and that you also push that narrative like a lot of other narratives get pushed, and by buying these local news stations, y'all can all fuck off.
If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. It doesn't matter your skin color.
You're a bad person. And honestly, you really want to also fix this? Yeah, stop talking about it. Bring back the goddamn fairness doctrine.
And I want to close on this. And this is actually going to be a future episode. And we're going to talk about this. Keneddi, this will be a open invitation. I'll go ahead and extend it to you if you want to join in on this conversation. It will probably be happening within the next couple of weeks. Is the idea of privilege, white and black, does it exist? Because there's going to be a take on it that I'm going to present this, and we're going to have a debate on this, Erik. Keneddi, you can be a part of that show.
I'm out of alcohol tonight, but yeah, I'll be there.
As long as you're sticking to Truly and not going White Claws, we're cool. And yes, I am saying that just because I drank Smirnoff, so what ground do I have to stand on? But damn it, I'm going to stand on it anyway until I fall over.
I'm a single mom right now. I can't do the hard liquor. I got to wake up.
So with that being said, as Keneddi prepares for AA meetings, we're going to wrap up this episode, and that will be a discussion on a future episode in the very near future, because I have an interesting take that I'm going to present to Erik on that to get his viewpoints on, and it's a little homework. So with that being said, Erik, where can they find you?
You can find me on social media at Squid Sportshead, and in case Randy gives me shit about this before we go to the show, yes, there was a big AFL game that was on. I didn't necessarily live tweet it because I was just letting him know, but I will be in the future. And yes, I am going to be on an upcoming R&R Sports Report with Randy Isbell and Robert Hagan, giving my live reactions for the first round of the draft. Well, stay tuned. I will send out details there. You can also find me on Facebook if you're willing to see me with any kind of flame wars or just basically ignoring things and checking up different GIFs sent by other guest co-hosts here on the network that I got called out for on other shows. But we ain't even talking about that right now. You can look at me at Erik Watkins. You know the deal. Guy, wine, recliner, etc. If you're looking for something a little extra spicy, go to my Twitter, slide into my DMs, undergo the proper thorough and vetting process. Snapchat, Dark Twitter, Kick, OnlyFans, you name it, you find it, I'll be on there. This brought to you by the fine folks at Rick's T&T LLC. Website and commercial coming soon. Tutoring and tax consultation services available. Wedding and notary public services available in the state of Florida.
So yeah, Erik's got you covered from everything from notary public to porn.
Damn straight. Fingers crossed there will be upcoming content in the next couple of months. It will be the summer viewer in more ways than one.
I don't want to know what kind of contact, if that's the tutoring or the other. Oh, just stop. Okay, we're not going down this rabbit hole. All right, Kennedy. Where does everybody can find you on your lovely TikTok channel?
Well, if you're a liberal white woman, don't follow my TikTok, but it's Ken_Eds. And then if you want my shitty sports takes on Twitter, it's Eds_Ken.
See, Harry,
Yeah.
I remember these things.
And you can always find Keneddi, as long as me and Erik, on the W2M kickoff, the kickoff. We just done last week. Keneddi was drunk and could not join us. She was passed out.
I was being
She
a
was-
mother last week.
Okay,
She was-
so you were drunk off of different stuff. We don't judge here.
She was out body shaming people at the beach.
Facts.
And telling us her making faces with her belly. So we hear. And
It was cold.
so you could always join us. We just did a mock draft that Keneddi was on assignment, trying to secure alcohol for Erik or something. We have yet to decide. She's probably drunk in a gutter somewhere, honestly. But
You got me.
You could join us next week where we do our draft recap and see how shitty our mock draft done. A recent trade just proved that our draft has already went to hell.
Exactly. And lest we forget, we're trying to also get Keneddi in for the long-awaited news desk, Jason.
I told you I'm not doing that shit. Yeah.
So if Keneddi joins, it'll still be a 3-person show, just a different 3 people.
Well, as long as y'all don't Eiffel Tower. But anyway, with that being said, you can find me on W2E on Twitter at W2M Chairman. And with that being said, I just embarrassed Keneddi, and we're going to stop there. You guys have a great night, and be safe.
OnlyFans, baby.